Howdy. Today is March 28th, 2024. And something said I needed to really mark this moment because this is no infusion day. It's the first time this year since December 14th that I have not had to have an infusion every 3 weeks, this would be the beginning of the next 3-week period. And we're not doing that anymore, thank goodness. And the best part of that is that this cold response to the infusion drug, the oxaliplatin, will be dissipating from here on out, and I'll begin to be able to experience cold. It's not a life-threatening event. I'm also a little energized today because of this. I don't know if you can hear it, but back in the let me check the sound here. Yeah, cool. Back in 2019, in January of 2019, I began to compose this piece of music. It's called Journeys Underneath, and it inspired an album called The 12 Journeys Underneath, of which there's 12 tracks, and it's about six and a half hours of music, ultimately. And I published it that spring, and it's on all the streaming services, Spotify and Apple Music and Pandora, right? So when you go in for a radiation treatment at this place, they have this music playing, and I'm really sensitive to music, so I asked them to either to turn it down or shut it off, and they said, do you have a preference? And I said, well, they said it's Pandora. I said, well, you could play some of my music. They didn't know I was a composer and or an artist even. I'm just some guy lying there on the table for a half an hour while they saved my life, with a particle beam weapon aimed at my innards. And so I told the main technician, Mike, about my composition, and he said, we'll do it tomorrow, and I was like, cool. So I was actually kind of excited about this, small thing all night. And then today, sure enough, they pulled up my piece of music. And so that's what I listened to while I was getting, shot with this particle beam weapon. And it so fits with all the sound that the particle beam machine makes, So, and I haven't listened to this in quite a while, and so it's just, I don't know, it just tickled me, and I got so energized by the idea, by hearing my own music, The first time I ever heard my music outside of my own devices and stuff, I was actually hitchhiking from Duluth, Minnesota to the Rainbow Gathering in Wisconsin in the summer of 2019. And this is before I was symptomatic, but I wasn't diagnosed with cancer. I had no idea I had some idea that something wasn't right, but I didn't know it was cancer. And so I'm hitchhiking along, and this brother picks me up in a really cool Volkswagen truck, and he's playing, either Pandora or I think it was Spotify, and he started. Well, to make a long story short, he agreed to check me out, to check out my music, and so he plugged it in, and it came up, and I'm listening to my piece for the first time on, in the greater world. Excuse me. And it's first time. And it's such a small thing. I don't get very many streams. I don't think anybody really pays much attention or anything. And you're as a composer, you're just creating music, and you're putting it out, and you don't have a lot of feedback, or at least I don't have a lot of feedback about it. So it was just it's really amazing to sit there listening while I'm getting shot with this particle beam, and bare ass naked, and I'm like, this is really good. So I'm kind of inspired for my non-infusion day, my first non-infusion day. So how it's going is, today is the fourth day of the infusions. The fourth day of the radiation treatments. I started them on Monday, and I can already tell, where this is going. So basically, the reason why we're at with this is, as I knew about a month and a half ago that the chemo alone was not going to do it. It was not going to get rid of the cancer. It was, it was shrinking, making it shrink a little bit, but it wasn't enough before I reached the end of, what they recommend for a person of my size and stature, how much chemo they recommend without incurring any long-term effects. As it is, I'm experiencing, I guess, what they call neuropathy, with the pins and needles in my fingers and toes, and unfortunately, a lot of the soft tissues of my mouth and this whole part of me. And hopefully, as we get further away from the infusions, that'll all dissipate. This week I had a meeting with both the radiation oncologist and with my regular oncologist, or at least his stand-in, who I would love to make my more permanent one, oncologist, because we hit it off pretty well. So where it's at is, I've got, today was number 4. That means there's 24 more to go. 5 days a week. Take the weekends off, and I'm taking the capecitabine chemo pills, continuing to take them through this whole period. And every day that I do the radiation, I have to take the pills as well. So it's a double whammy. And I have to tell you that I've already noticed that the addition of the radiation makes these chemo pills that much more potent in the effects of it. We've pretty much dialed in the fact that the diarrhea that I've been experiencing for about the past month or so is caused by these capecitabine pills. And you combine that with the bleeding, and what you have is, every couple of hours I'm having to do a stool, and those stools are usually just getting a puddle of blood or blood clots, clumps of blood. There's this old lady I once helped. She was in a wheelchair, and we helped move her from New York to the Cape. And I would go check on her periodically to see how she was doing, because she had all this stuff for a big apartment, and she was in this little apartment and in a wheelchair and could barely get around, So I'd go over and see if she needed anything, and she offered me a soda, right, like some ginger ale, and I drank the ginger ale, and I burped, and it's like with your grandmother, you want to be, you don't want to be too brazen with your burping, right? So I'm like, excuse me, I'm sorry. And she said, better out than in. And that's how I feel about, even though it's diarrhea and it's, bloody stools and everything that comes out, it's better out than in at this point. So what has happened, one of the reasons why I agreed to continue with this course of treatment is because I knew the chemo wasn't going to be good enough. It had kind of plateaued in its ability to affect, the cancer had kind of acclimated itself and been able to continue doing what it's doing in a ever diminishing state, but we'd reached the end of my ability to take in that level of toxicity or keep up that level of toxicity. At this moment, I am carrying the most toxicity that I have because it's cumulative. And on top of that, I've been able to fulfill my goal to overlap the two therapies, the radiation and the chemo toxicity. But like I said, left to its own devices, if I had stopped doing anything since I started in December, right after basically, if I want to emphasize this because a lot of people don't understand the significance of what's going on here. They think, I've gotten a couple of emails from people or texts from people that think, oh yeah, everything's heading in the right direction. What you do not understand is if I hadn't started treatment when I did in December, I'd be dead already. If I were to stop treatment right now, I would be dead before the end of the summer. That's my reality. This cancer is a very aggressive cancer, and it's very tenacious. It's only all the shrinking it's done. Primarily, it's all that's left is the initial lesion and the initial lymph node. The other lymph nodes are out of the picture. They're not showing enough, as they put it. They don't meet criterion. So they're normal enough at this point. The best part is that the lesion has backed out of the colon wall. So it's not threatening the nearby tissues and, the possibility of metastasizing to other parts of my body, which it would have just gone on ahead and had its own fucking party if I hadn't started treatment when I did. So now it's only like a centimeter deep into the wall of the colon, which is magnificent. That's the plus side. The downside is that from the chemo, the results of the chemo, because we did a MRI and 2 CT scans last week before we started to get to get an accurate gauge of the size of what the radiation people would have to deal with. The lesion hasn't shrunk that much. Otherwise, it started out around 4 centimeters, and it's now 3.3 centimeters. The lymph node started out at 1.4 centimeters, and it's now 1.3 centimeters. So the periphery of the cancer is shrinking, but the core of it, at least up until Monday, was pretty threatening, still very threatening, and it's basically banking its fires, banking its coals. You know what I mean? So if I were to pause, take a break between these treatments, that would be enough for it to break out more. So at this point, it's definitely pedal to the metal and full speed ahead, and no let up. I'm going to do as much of this radiation as I can, the full 28, hopefully. Even though it's going to, I can tell already, this diarrhea and bloody stools every couple of hours. It's just got 20, and it's 24 hours. I woke up, twice last night to poop out some blood. That's just how it's going to be. And I'm sorry for those that for whom this is too graphic, but this is my reality right now. I celebrate the fact that up until Monday, up until the first radiation treatment, all the discomfort I was feeling was from the chemo, primarily the infusion drug, oxaliplatin, and the cancer itself. There was hardly ever, in all the 3 or 4 months that we've been since the diagnosis, there was hardly a peep of pain or discomfort from it. That ended on Monday when we started doing the radiation, and excuse me, I do a lot of burping now, and making weird sounds, and I'm that guy that hums to himself all the time because it helps to trigger the vagus nerve calming effect, so I don't burp as much. And and I talk to myself. I encourage myself. I'm like, through the pain and the all this friggin' blood and everything, I'm my best cheerleader. You know what I mean? And I've turned it around so that it's not an oh shit, it's a okay. This is a good thing. This is, because if I'm hurting, that means the cancer is hurting right now, which it hasn't been. It hasn't been having any kind of strong attack. And so the goal, as I've said in the past, is to so attack the support system of the cancer that it triggers a catastrophic, cascading collapse of its support system. And I really feel in my bones that this radiation treatment is going to do that. The downsides of that are, it's really, I know it's about to wipe me out. I'm gonna, as soon as we get off here, it's nap time for David, and it's like 1 o'clock. Saying all that to say, I'm alive and well. I had the good fortune of hearing from a friend of mine a rainbow brother, who is about my age. And unfortunately, while I've been going through what I've been going through, 2 years ago, he was diagnosed with leukemia and given 6 months to live. But we were texting last night, so fuck that shit. I was sitting in the hospital because my what do you call it? The regular oncologist meeting was yesterday morning at the crack. And now I'm that guy that gets up at the crack, before the sun comes up, because I go to bed early, But I'm sitting there in the waiting, and I can't not see people anymore. I can't not see the lame and the halted. This woman got pushed by me. She was in a wheelchair, and she only had one leg below the knee. She had her foot amputated. I know that it's from diabetes, and I know that the reason why she was there is because she was there for the cancer, for the oncology people. So she's dealing with recovering from an amputated foot, and she's got cancer on top of that. And I'm like, fuck, I am so lucky. You know what I mean? I have all my digits, even if I can't feel them completely right now, but I will be able to. I can see a light at the end of the tunnel. They're projecting a cure. So I'm seeing all these people. I'm seeing that how fortunate I am. That there's this thing that there's always somebody worse off than you. And I know that there's people looking at me thinking the same thing. They're like, oh fuck, I'd hate to have to go through what that guy's going through. And I would hate that for you as well, because honestly, I don't know that you do as well, because there are parts of this that are the only reason that I'm still here is because of the work that I've done on myself, my body and my spirit, my mind, up until this point. There were like, after the first infusion, if I didn't have as strong a heart as I did, because I've, been as physical as I have over the years, I could have easily had a cardiac arrest from the reaction to the cold response, that first reaction to the cold response. All these muscles of my chest just seized up and, felt like they were crushing my heart. I knew I had a strong heart. And that's the only thing that got me through, and just, not giving up, physically not giving up, And I know that there are people like that woman, if she had to experience that, I don't understand how they can prescribe this shit to people that are, not as strong as I am, because it could kill them. Just the friggin' drug itself could kill you, So anyway, I had another one of those moments yesterday with this oncologist where he, I had to talk to him about my previous experiences, and first thing he said to me when we sat down is, I've just looked through your chart, and it looks like you've been through a whole lot. I said, you don't know half of it, bro. You just don't have. You can't know, because these guys that prescribe this stuff, they never take it, and I wouldn't want them to. I wouldn't wish it on them, But there came a moment in the conversation where I just had to say to him, this is, I've said this before, and unfortunately I'll have to say it again. I've had 5 oncologists, and every one of them has fucked up. And every one of those fuck-ups has cost me And some of those, if I wasn't proactive, I would be dead already. So forgive me if I can't just take what doctors say at face value, because if I had, I'd be dead. Several times over, unfortunately. I've had to be my own advocate, and this is exactly what I said to him, And so I encourage anybody that finds themselves in this situation to do your own fucking research. You'll be more informed, and it may scare the shit out of people. It may intimidate doctors, when they get pushback with questions about things like diet, the impact of diet and exercise and so forth, and supplements and always ask, is there anything that I can be doing dietarily to improve my outcomes? That's a really key thing to ask, because it doesn't, it's not threatening in the sense of, they don't do well with woo-woo, with the spiritual. Most of them don't do well with your spiritual relationship with what's happening. That's not their purview, and they get real nervous about it, because all their main focus is the standard of care, delivering the standard of care and making sure that you're adhering to the standard of care, which is agreed to by the AMA. Every year it was explained to me, they have these conferences where the leading experts in every field of cancer compare notes on what their the efficacies of the treatments that they've been doing, and that's how they derive the yearly standard of care. Because it's all in cancer research, it's constantly changing, because there's so many moving parts. There's always there's new research coming online, that supplants what they've been doing for forever. Reusing a reapplication of drugs and protocols for different cancers that they didn't do in the past. Example being, the standard of care that I'm dealing with is completely different than the people that did it 10 years ago. Friends of mine that survived the same thing 10 years ago, they started with surgery and used chemo or radiation as a cleanup. This time, now the standard of care is the exact opposite. It's a flip of that whole thing. You can either start with chemo or start with radiation, but you're going to do both of them before you get to do before you get to the point where they assess whether or not you're gonna need surgery, which is great, because I'm really not down with hacking off a foot of my colon. I'm not down with that. So a couple of things. It looks like there might be a period after I should be finished with the last radiation treatment. That's the standard of care, 28 treatments, on April 26th. And I'm not scheduled for a surgical consultation, which will be an in-person, until the 10th of July. So that, and it's known that, for weeks and months after you complete these, chemo and radiation treatments, the cancer will continue to diminish. So they'll probably give it a couple of weeks or months to see what's left before they go in, and the first thing they're going to do is do a colonoscopy on the descending colon, where the upper rectum is where the lesion is. So I can expect that to happen sometime if things go the way that they seem to be going, sometime in July, and that assessment sometime in July. And I hope that there's there's time for me to be able to go to the Cape, drive cross country. I'm hoping that this radiation will take out the cancer and leave nothing for the surgeons. That's my focus. The other thing is, because these radiation treatments are 5 days a week, I'm here for the duration for the next month, and that means I'm going to miss the total solar eclipse on April 8th. So that's kind of a bummer. But couldn't be helped. So barring the unforeseen, I'm going to be right here in LA for what will be a partial solar eclipse here, but a total in the path of totality, obviously, that starts in Texas and goes up to Maine, I think, up to Montreal, I think. So kudos to those that can make it for that. It'll definitely, it'll be a 4-minute long eclipse, about the same length as the one that we saw in Africa in 2001, the World Rainbow Gathering, and definitely a life-changing event. What you're going to see a band of the sky that looks like night. You look to the south and you'll see daylight. You look to the north and you'll see blue skies as well. And in that band of night, you're going to be able to see, I think, 5 of the visual planets. Mercury, Mars, Venus, Jupiter, and Saturn. In addition to the sun and moon making love in the sky for 4 minutes. And you'll be able, if you're down south, if you're west of Austin, if it's a clear sky, you'll see it's something called the pearls or the diamonds or something like that. And what that means is as the planets come into totality, you'll start to see this ring of, they look like bright pearls or diamonds around the sun, around the moon. It's going to be friggin' life-changing for a lot of people. So yeah, gonna miss that, but at least I'll be alive. So that's all the news that's fit to print. Thanks for watching. Thanks for paying attention. Thanks for listening to my noise and confusion. I know that there's some that are going to watch this video and they're going to say, "Oh, you look so good. You look so healthy," and everything like that. Little secret. I pick the times when I have the most energy and I look the most normal, so I don't scare the shit out of people. So the reason I look good is because I planned to do this when I knew that I wasn't going to put a fright into people. I'm at the end of the 3-week cycle of the last infusion, so that drug is its weakest, and I'm my most normal at this time. This is about to change pretty drastically as we get deeper into the radiation. I don't know that I'll try to keep doing these, on the regular, but it's all about what's happening, and I can't, from one day to the next, I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's going to happen. Last night I was driving along, and I'd just gotten some food for dinner, and I was pulling up to a stoplight, and I got this sudden stab of pain, and another one right after it, and it felt like something burst, and I just said, I just knew that this was, it's all changing for the better. At least something is happening with the cancer. you know, and it ain't good for it. So, you know, I want to say something. I really appreciate people and being encouraging and everything like that. You know, these comments like, you know, stay strong and you're such a strong person and all that stuff. It's like, I know how strong I am. I appreciate the fact that you're, you know, there's not a lot that you can say, you know. I appreciate that fact, because if I was watching this and I saw me, I'd be like, you know, I don't know what I'd say. I would feel very drawn to say something that's encouraging, you know. Yeah. Anyway. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for all the love and encouragement and support. And especially those folks that have been able to contribute monies. I've, you know, as part of my, when I asked the doctor what she recommended dietarily that I could do to boost my chances here, you know, she recommended red meat, and so I've been doing my best to eat some kind of red meat every day. And I started taking those iron supplements as well. They're like 160% of what your daily requirement would be. So yeah, I highly recommend anybody asking that fucking question, you know. Ask every question you can think of to ask, even if it bugs them. You know, they only allot you like 20 minutes in those appointments, so, you know, make the most of it. Anyway, remember, we love you.